Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. My name is Z Garcia. Today we are talking about what lies beneath. This is technically our Halloween episode, but we've done that already. So we figured we would change it up, go with this theme about games which take place in underwater settings, games that take place in caverns, under the earth, possibly other planets, and doing some deep mining, that sort of thing. I like this style of setting because it allows you to go to worlds you don't normally get to visit in board games, while also not being necessarily space operas. You know, it allows for perhaps alien worlds that are right beneath our feet. I like that very much. Also, usually this style of game comes coupled with beautiful imagery because it allows for that, right? Under the water settings allow for gorgeous illustrations, or even just cavern diving allows for that. And it allows for something that you don't normally see on a tabletop setting. So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you have a good time. Enjoy the show. I'll see you in just a little bit.
Hello everybody and welcome to the life of a board gamer. Today we are going to talk about Artifacts Inc., a game by Ryan Laukat, and by artist Ryan Laukat, and by everything Ryan Laukat. First of all, in this game you have a rulebook, and in this rulebook you will read about your company that you will be playing and how you have to be successful and learn a lot of money and respect. All this fame you will achieve by going and digging through a site looking for dinosaur bones and stuff like that, in the later game you will sell to the museums for substantial profit. So on this card you will be playing your dice that come in one color, but I upgraded my game so there is a color for each player. So there is a red one, and there's a green one, and there is a brown one and a blue one. So you will also use money for finding some better locations, for paying to go to better locations when there are rare artifacts that are more expensive, and museums will give you even more money for them. So you are asking yourself right now, what does this video has to do with diving and this game with diving? So, well, there is this score sheet and there is a dive that says right over here, and that means you will go and dive for different treasures in this game that will bring you a lot of money and a lot of respect in a artifact community, I presume.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Tommy.
And we've been talking games.
And this is Beat, Meet, or Obsolete. Today on Blender, we're talking about what lies beneath. Games with underwater or underground exploration, cave dwelling. Tell us about the game, Ben.
So this week we're looking at Aeon's End. Aeon's End is set in an underworld civilization that has fled and taken cover from these giant monsters that are attacking it, and you play as the Breach Mages trying to defend it. Aeon's End is a deck-building game that you play cooperatively as a team. Over the course of the game, you'll be adding better cards to your deck, trying to make yourself as efficient and strong as possible, because as the deck wears out of the monster, it will also become more and more efficient and strong, making it more and more difficult to survive. You and your friends will win the game if either you can lower the Nemesis' health all the way to 0, or outlive its deck. But should the monster destroy Gravehold, the city you are defending, or all of you as Breach Mages, you will lose and probably want to play again and try and beat it.
Well, we lost.
Maybe.
We lost.
We did lose.
I don't know if I necessarily want to try at it one more time. It was a good game.
Yeah.
And, you know, not a cooperative fan myself.
Nope, we've mentioned that in the past.
Not a deck building fan either. I kind of like it as more of a side, like swept under the rug.
Not the main gameplay.
Yeah. However, I think that it implemented both pretty well. You know, you had to make cooperative decisions.
You did.
And you had to, there was a good deck building aspect to it that wasn't too random, you know? I knew what I was going to get every turn, and that's one of the things I hate about deck builders, is you're like, I got this cool combo, and you're like, half the combo, 4 cards that don't do anything. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah. So Aeon End tackles this deck building aspect differently that allows for this type of play. So what's interesting is you actually never shuffle your deck. After you go through your entire draw pile, you simply flip over your discard pile and work your way back through it. And as the game goes, you're allowed to discard your cards in a certain order, giving you somewhat of an option as to when that card will come up and with what other...
There's somewhat of a rule to it, but yeah.
Give you a little more flexibility there, and also you're allowed to hang on to cards from round to round and not discard them, allowing you to save up maybe for that big turn should you draw the cards you need.
Which is also, you know, one of the flaws of deck building. You're like, shoot, if I just held on to this, I could do something, but it's like, see ya.
Yeah, hopefully it comes up next time.
So,
as a deck building game, I think it does something unique, and I think it does it well.
It does it in a way that's not frustrating to me.
Which is your critique of most deck building games.
Yes. So I did enjoy it. I think it met my expectations. I wasn't expecting anything phenomenal, and I mean, honestly, my expectations were set pretty low, and it kind of met them. I wouldn't say I was overly enamored with it, but it's a solid game that I'd be willing to play again.
Good. Okay. Once again, coming from someone who doesn't like deck building or co-ops, fair enough.
That's basically an exceed.
Basically. For me, I think I'm going to go with meat as well. I heard a lot of good things. The guy at the game store really talked it up, and I didn't want to get my hopes up too much. I was looking for something to replace Sentinels of the Multiverse, so that was my expectation, was something that I could replace that in my collection with, allowing for more strategic play, and I got it. I got a game that I feel is a cooperative enough game with a little more strategic, asymmetrical play. More strategery, as you could say, yes. So for me also, it's going to be a meat this week.
All right. That is Aeon's End. Just kidding. There you go.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. See us. Check us out on our channel.
Pronto? Oh, mamma! Sì? No. Sì, hai visto su Facebook? Ma no, ma lo so che la festa dei santi è più importante. Vabbè, ma si fa per stare con gli amici. Sì, in Italia abbiamo il carnevale, pulcine, arlecchi. Lo so. Va bene, allora non festeggio. Va bene. Ciao. Oh. Vediamo un po' se è pronto. Che ci fa questa frutta? Ancora non provo. Let's see. what lies beneath. My wonderful Parmigiana is ready. What? How is it possible? This is incredible. I should do it every time. This oven is magical. So I get the Lost Expedition. Who knows what lies beneath those jungle leaves? Hi, I'm Daniele and this is Play Cool. In this section of 2 pros and 2 cons, we will take a look at The Lost Expedition, a game by Per Sylvester, illustrated by Garden Eving in a wonderful way. This is a game that plays up to 5 players. In this game, we are 3 adventurers that delve into the jungle to find a lost city and then get out alive. And you have to survive and reach the goal city. You are dealt every round 6 cards in the solo mode, which I will be showing off this time. And you will see what you have. In the morning, you have to play 3 of these cards, and each card has a number, which is important in the morning phase because the sequence is depending on the number here. So if I place, for example, actually you play some cards from the deck, you remain with 3 of the 6 in your hand for the night phase, for the evening phase, but 6 are there now to be resolved. You order them actually, as I was saying, depending on the number, and then you perform those actions that are here. The yellow ones you have to perform. The red ones you must choose one to perform, and the blue ones are optional. For example, for these expertise symbols, you have to spend one of the expertise of that character, and that means that he will lose one of the 3 healths that he has available. If all characters are dead before you reach your destination, then you lose, but if only one character, at least one character, reaches the destination, you win. And you reach it using another symbol on one of these cards. This is the symbol that lets you advance. But usually this is connected to some negative, other negative things. For example, this lets you lose one of these expertise. That means losing 1 health here or losing 1 card that has that symbol. Because on some card you gain also these symbols and you can spend them again. Sometimes you gain or lose food. You also lose food every time you pass from morning to evening and from evening to morning. You have also another resource, bullets, that you can use on some cards to perform some other effects. And yeah, that's mostly the game. So in the evening phase you actually have more freedom on how to place cards. Instead of putting sequentially depending on the number, you can decide, okay, I put this one here and then I put it to the right. This coming from here, I can decide if putting it to the right or to the left, but I cannot put it in the middle. So in this way you have a different experience in the evening, and then you have another sequence you have to evaluate. Let's go to the pros and cons. The stunning cards and artwork are the first pro. I love this artwork. I said Garden Eving that did the artwork. I hope I said the name mostly correctly. These are wonderful illustrations, and the cards are so big, tarot size, like a Dixit size. Okay, they don't reach the level of Dixit artwork. They are really nice and get you in the mood, telling you a story also with the river crossing, having some symbols that connect you to the theme. I really love this artwork, and it really brings me into the game. There are different play modes. That's the second pro. As I said, you can play cooperatively or competitively. You can play solo. And then to the cons. Sometimes you don't have many choices. It's really punishing, and that's a con just up to a point. Because actually, as I was saying, the good solitaires really do that. On Irem, Friday, really punish you sometimes with card draw. But you finish them quickly and you start a new round, right? You try again and change something in your strategy. Maybe you are a little luckier next time. And the second con, component-wise, I really cannot complain much, but maybe these cheats, and in particular I don't like these ones, the health ones. They are really small. They look like sometimes you have this as spare parts that you have to throw away from other games. These are really small and do their job fine, but could have been a little more up to the standard of the rest of the game that has these big tarot-sized cards. I would have liked something a little more, you know, fancier, but that's fine. It's a really nice packaging as well, so thumbs up for me, and have fun. See you next time.
Hello everyone! For this segment, I want to discuss something which is a little bit more serious than I generally do, which plagues a lot of people and isn't getting discussed a lot. Depression. I already see you thinking, but wait, Anna, stop! I know you're a medical student and all, but what has this to do with gaming and with this Blender's theme? The last question I'm going to answer Anna style by doing a little skit.
Oh my god, did you hear? Anna has a depression. But no, that cannot be. Anna's always so happy and upbeat.
No! So, now we've answered that question, we're going to move on to the more important question. Why is it a great idea to play games with friends that suffer from a depression? 1. Games are a great way to interact in a predictable manner. They don't have to worry about what they and their friends are going to talk about. If they are not having such a great day and human interaction is hard, they can just focus on the game. And after a while, if they do feel better, they can start talking about the game. And maybe, just maybe, they'll even allow you to ask the most terrifying question of all.
So, how are you doing?
2. Games can be played at home. This doesn't sound like a big deal. But when it's already hard enough to get off the couch, the idea of having to drive a car, or even worse, having to go by public transportation, to do something you are already feeling a little bit anxious about, aka meeting people, it can just be too much, especially if this would be a crowded area. At home, or even at someone else's home that you already know, which by the way comes with the bonus of not having to death stare people out of your house, it can feel a lot more comfortable. 3. Games are a great way to immerse yourself in another world for a couple of hours and just focus on that quilt instead of your brain that is talking to you the whole time with things like, oh my god, that person didn't text me back, they probably hate me right now, are those blue check marks? I'm terrible! And instead of that, you can just focus on getting your quilt done. So, what are in my opinion some games that are excellent to play with people that suffer from a depression or even not feeling so well? Play co-op games. Gaming has to be fun. And when you're not feeling so well, confrontational games are sometimes a little bit too much. Co-op games are a great way to boost someone's feeling of self-worth. And be honest, how much fun is it to be able to high-five and share the joyful experience of winning with other people? If you don't want to play co-op games, because maybe that's just a little bit too much talking negotiation, play games where there is something that in the end you can be proud of, despite having won or not. Games like Ticket to Ride, Sky and Kanagawa are great examples of games that you just did. This way, even when they lose, they still feel like they accomplished something, which sometimes can be a very hard emotion to get to when you're feeling depressed. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. Maybe as a friend of someone who went through a depression or is going through a depression, or just maybe you are just experiencing it yourself. Just know that you're not alone. And when you see me at Essen, I'm always in for a game. Except when my dice get stuck in the dice tower. Then you'll just have to leave me alone for a couple of minutes.
Hey everybody, for today on Respect Your Elders, I wanted to talk about Super Motherlode. This is a game from Roxley Games, came out in 2015, and in it all the players are going to be mining Mars, digging down, finding minerals, using the cost of those minerals to train new pilots, and even finding some lost ancient alien relics for little bonuses along the way. The game, I think, draws inspiration from 3 major things, and we're going to talk about those right now. The first one is movies and media that has been set on the Martian landscape. I say movies because I think mainly that's been the most influential when it comes to showing visually and really getting a look and a feel for what Mars might look like, might be like, right? And so, for example, here I'm talking about movies like Mission to Mars, which I think is very underrated as a film, but it's a very good film. And if you go farther back, you've got things like The Angry Red Planet, a much older movie, I believe, from the 50s, in which some characters go to Mars, come back and tell their story of finding hostile alien life forms on the planet. Now, in this game, you are in the Martian landscape much after that, because there are no monsters in it, there are no aliens. You are finding alien remnants. And it's even displayed on the board in little alien skulls that as you are digging down, you discover, draw a token for those, and you've got some sort of special power. So that's the first thing, and it's just all that sort of media that's out there, this fascination that we have, be it from documentaries or be it from fictional media, with Mars and the Martian landscape. The second thing that this draws inspiration from is a game, the first game that did deck building, and that is Dominion. And this is, in fact, a deck building game, but it's not only a deck building game, right? Dominion and some of the ones that came out right after Dominion were deck building games, and that's all they did. That was it. You built a deck by purchasing new cards, and throughout the game, that deck of cards that you yourself played with became better and better. And you could do things more efficiently, be it buying land in Dominion, or be it slaying monsters in something like Thunderstone. And this one has that. Your characters get better at digging into the landscape and bombing rocks out of the way for sort of bigger gains all at once. That's a little harder. You need to have the explosives, you need to have the right cards, but you can do that as well. And so this is very much a deck building game, but one that uses deck building as a part of the whole, which I like very much. I find deck building used as part of something else to be much more captivating. And then lastly, this draws inspiration, of course, from video games, and one specifically, Dig Dug, in which you are digging down into the ground, and in that one, again, you are finding hostile creatures, and you are trying to avoid them or eliminate them. In this one, you are not finding anything alive down there, which is great, that's a relief. But you are very much doing similar things, digging down, finding your way, digging over, then down, then over again perhaps, to find exactly what you want along the way, because you've scanned the ground and you know what's under there. So you know which minerals to go for. You know if there's rock formations in your way that you cannot go through simply by drilling. You have to bomb those out of your way. And it's going to give you this feeling, this very real feeling of something like Dominion meets Dig Dug, a video game. And I think it's a fantastic grouping of all three of those inspirations. The feeling of an alien landscape, the funky characters that you find in the game with their nice sci-fi helmets, and some of them are even crazier than that, give me that feeling of Mars and Martian movies. The deck building is very important in it, and you have to be careful with managing your money, buying new cards, making your deck bigger and better. And you are digging down into the ground and finding some great stuff under there, much like Dig Dug did, with that really cool tear away, the landscape kind of vibe to it. So there you go. Super Motherload is a fantastic game. It uses those inspirations very well. And I think the game is incredible. You should definitely look into it if you have not heard of it, if you haven't given it a shot. This is a high endorsement from me. Super Motherload. Check this one out. And thank you for tuning in. See you in just a bit.
Hello, my name's Dan, and this is my board gaming time capsule. Now then, no one really knows what's going to happen in the future. But what we do know is that the increasing industrialisation will lead to an increased level of air pollution. An increased level of air... An increased level of air pollution, which will cause the atmosphere to be barely... Atmosphere to be barely breathable. And so the people of the future are going to have to learn to... I'm going to have to learn to survive without breathing. Oh. And that's why I'm going to put this game, Bermuda, into our board gaming time capsule. Bermuda is a cooperative game where the players are deep-sea divers, trying to claim as many treasures from the seabed as they possibly can. The mechanics are very simple. All you're doing is collaborating and making sequential runs of cards by playing cards from your hand. It's a bit like Hanabi, if you're allowed to cheat and look at your cards. The real fun in this game, though, is that it's timed. And the timer isn't an hourglass or a stopwatch or anything like that. The timer is how long the players can hold their breath. On the count of 3, all players take a deep breath and start laying down cards. The timer stops as soon as the first person lets out a breath or collapses unconscious and has to be rushed to hospital. Whichever comes soonest, really. Holding your breath is actually a superb timer for a game. Not only does it add a time limit, but it also ensures that the players can't talk to each other and that there's a real sense of urgency to proceedings, as it gets more and more uncomfortable to keep playing. In fact, I'm working on a proposal right now to get the mechanic introduced to some of the more heavy Euro games that my group plays, because that should cure even the most persistent case of analysis paralysis. And so, all that's left to do is to put Bermuda into our board gaming time capsule.
For today's game Under the Radar, I'm taking a look at Subterra. Now, before I tell you why I think this is a neat game, I do want to mention that it's possibly under the radar because the game is fairly new, and I don't know how widely available it is. The distribution for this, I don't know anything about it. So that's possibly why it's not really out there yet. But I feel it's the kind of game that has the potential to be long-term very much under the radar. So I wanted to highlight it here. I did just recently do a review for this, so you can go check that out if you want to as well, if you want a few more details. But the game is a co-op game with the classic trope of everyone fell in a deep dark hole in the earth. You need to get out before your flashlights die, and awful scary things come out of the dark and get you. That sounds very horrific. It really does not come across that way. It's simply an exploration game. And in it, you are going to get characters. Everyone is going to have one of these characters, and you will be things like a scout or a geologist. You can be a climber, you can be a medic, things like that. Everyone gets one of those. You shuffle up and set a bunch of tiles aside. You set down a starting tile, and you are on your way, taking actions, exploring new places, and avoiding some of the bad things you're going to find down there. And there's a few bad things, but the thing I really like about the game is that it handles all of this theme and all of these sort of encounters you've got with great elegance. Things like having cave-ins happen are very simple. You roll one die and some of the possible cave-ins cave in. There is a few places that have water pools that are a little harder to traverse. But it's very simple. You flip a card at the end of every player's turn, and if it says that those places fill, if they're still empty, they fill, suddenly making it a little harder to walk around the entire layout. And so on. There's even monsters down there. They call them terrors or horrors or something like that. And they're sort of just, you know, represented by a little disc. You don't really know what they are. I guess it allows for your imagination to run wild. But the way that moves and goes after the nearest caver, as they call them, is very simple. And it's handled with elegance. And that's my favorite thing about it, I think. It harkens to me back to games like Pandemic, which took a very thematic setting a lot, right? What could have possibly been an overwrought design and streamlined it to perfection. Another game that does this very well for me, not a co-op game, but does it very well, is K2, the mountain climbing game, in which, again, they simulate a lot of things like weather and being under duress and things like that in very clean, interesting mechanisms. This game does that as well. I love the exploration in it. I like the different characters and the powers they have. I like the ability every turn to push yourself to get an extra action, but you might also get hurt doing so, and you have to be really careful about not taking too many wounds, or you'll become unconscious and you'll need someone else to come over to where you are and help you out. That could be really bad if the party has been really separated, or if you wandered away a bit and some things popped up between you two, like there was a cave-in, maybe a pool flooded, right? There was a tremor, perhaps, things like that. I really enjoy the theme here. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of, which, again, I mentioned in the review, is that I think the production is a little lackluster. It's a little subpar, maybe, and I would love to see this game republished by a company that could go all in with the production of the components and the production of the graphic design of everything. But even as it is, I think Subterra, right here in this version, is very much worth getting if you enjoy co-op games, if you want something a little bit different, if you enjoy that exploration feeling of flipping a tile and seeing what's next, and you like games that are pretty tough and you have to be very headstrong to get through them. So, Subterra is a very cool one for under the radar, definitely. If you come across it, check this one out, folks. I'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris, and this is the Teacher's Lounge. Now if you're like me, you like to set the microwave to weird times like 67 seconds. But also if you're like me, you're probably very frequently the game teacher with your group of friends or with your family. So the Teacher's Lounge is an area where we can share ideas, recommendations of how to be better teachers, and that way we can get our friends and family into the fun of the game quicker. Now my game that fits the theme this week, What Lurks Below, is the need to escape the curse of the temple. Now this is the big box version. The normal box is only about that big or so don't be intimidated by this. This is in fact a very fast 10-minute cooperative real-time dice game designed by Christian Amundsen Ostby and published by Queen Games. The recommendation that I'm going to share for this game is to teach the game backwards. That might sound a little bit odd, but you teach what the objective of the game is, which is to escape the temple through this exit tile. So I'm going to give you an example of what teaching a game backwards might look like. I'm not going to teach you all the rules to the game, that's not what this segment is about, but it's to give you an idea of how you can use this tip. So if you teach a game backwards, you might say, this is the exit tile. We need to get all 4 of our explorers out this exit. When we do that, you see that there's a key symbol here. We have to roll keys greater than the number of the gems that are left in this gem depository. So how do we get the gems out of the depository? We have to find this exit somewhere shuffled into the bottom, and we'll eventually get it. But these tiles here have little altars that show the gems on there. So if we're on these tiles and we roll, then complete the challenges that are shown on here, we can pull out 1 gem on the single altar, or 1, 2, or maybe even 3 gems on these altars here, reducing the number of gems here in the depository still. To explore and find new tiles, you'll see that on the back of every tile is shown 2 running men symbols. So when you roll, and if you get 2 of these running men symbols, you can then draw the top tile from the deck and place it adjacent to the room that you're in. To move from one tile to the other, you have to roll the combination that's shown on this part of the tile. So you'll see that this one is, for example, a running man and a key symbol. So when you do that, you can move from say this room into this room. Eventually, you're going to reveal this exit tile, and we'll all have to work our way out there once we've cleared out enough gems. So that's what I mean by teaching a game backwards. You start with the main objective, and then you take those little tracing steps back to show the overall flow of the game. What's great about this is that people won't have questions, what's the point of the game? The worst thing, the worst feeling is when you finish explaining a game and a person says, so how do we win? The fact that this is cooperative, I think also works well with this, but this is a recommendation that you can apply to a lot of different games. Let me know if you've got recommendations that you'd like to see or other games that you could try implementing this teaching strategy with. I'll be responding to the comments below under the name Meeple Overboard. That's the podcast that my wife and I run together. I hope you enjoyed your visit here to the Teacher's Lounge. Stay a friend of the blend.
Hello friends of the blend, and welcome back to Retro Board Game Corner. The title of today's show is What Lies Beneath. I have a game here for you. It's called Lost Treasure, published in 1982 by Parker Brothers. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which you're all divers searching for buried treasure. Let me set this up and show you how it works. So to start the game, every player is going to get $150,000. And then they're going to pick a color boat and then put them on a port here. There's 8 different ones to choose, and they're designated by these red circles here. So let's just say I want to start there. So now you can begin the game. Now on your turn, you can do any or all of the following steps, but you must do them in this order. The first thing you do is search for treasure. And then you can roll and move your boat, and then you can dive for treasure. Now, when you're searching for treasure, you're going to take your dive control center here, and when this thing is turned on, I'm not going to turn it on right now, it is going to secretly hide 2 treasures, a gold treasure and a silver treasure, somewhere along this map. Now, the map is boarded off by red lines in 9 space grid here with the red lines. So, for example, I'm in grid number 27 here, so I'll take my dive control center, hit the 27 button, and either hit north, south, or east, west. So let's say, for example, I hit the gold east-west button on space number 27. So the compass will spin, and it'll tell me if it is west of space 27 or east of space 27. So let's just say that the indicator went west. So I'm going to take the gold buoys and put them west of space 27. That means that the treasure can be anywhere from here west. So now you'll take the 2 6-sided dice and roll the dice and move that amount of pips. Now I already know that the treasure is west of space 27, so I'll just move my boat 4 spaces, and you can move up, down, left, right, or diagonally. So I want to try to get more west. So when my turn comes around again, I am now on grid 26. So I'll take the dive control center, hit the number 26 where I'm at, and I still want to find out if it's east or west, so hit that button, and it'll tell me if it's more west, or if I'm dead on center. If the light lights up in the center, I'm dead on. So then on my next turn, I can start going north-south. Well, through the turns, you'll pinpoint exactly what grid the treasure's at, and then you can dive for it. So let's say that I have pinpointed that the treasure is right here in grid 26 here. So now I am ready to dive. So to dive, you're going to hit the number 26, but instead of hitting direction, you're going to hit the air button, and then your tanks will fill up with air. Now, there's 9 possible places where the treasure can be, and there's 9 spots on your keypad. So you're just going to hold down. Let's say you think the treasure's on 1. You'll hold it down, and then you'll hear yourself descend. And then if you found a treasure, you'll hear a bell ding, and then you can come up, and then it'll tell you the value of the treasure that you found on this side of where the air tank is at here. Now, if you didn't find a treasure, you'll hear a buzzing noise, and then you click another number. But be careful, because your air will be going down as you try to search for where the treasure's at. If you run out of air and you have not found the treasure, your turn will be over, and then you just have to wait for next turn to try to find the treasure. So once you have the value of the treasure, let's say that treasure was worth $100,000. So you're going to take 2 treasure chests here. Each one of these treasure chests is designated as $50,000. So those treasure chests belong to you, and then you have to make it to any port to cash in on those treasures. So then you'll just take $100,000. Now, the only way that they're worth any money is if you actually have the cash for them. First person to $1 million wins the game. One thing I didn't go over is the pirating action. You can actually steal treasure from another player. Kind of has like a take that element to it. The real star of the game is this here, the Diving Control Center. Hooray for 1980s technology. Well, that's all the time I have for now. May your rolls be high.
All right, everybody, and that's going to do it for us. A big thanks to all my contributors. As always, couple of quick shout-outs. First, go check out geekygoodies.com. They make and carry our Friend of the Blend shirts. There's a link right down below. Click that. Go get yourself an awesome Blender shirt. And the other one is Mr. Tom Vassell just hit his 200th episode of Board Game Breakfast, so big congrats to him. And, well, you'll see in just a second a little video made by one of our very own contributors as a big congratulations to him. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks again to all of you for tuning in. And as always, hey, stay a friend of the blend. I'll see you next time.